Knockout Legends in the building. Like, comment, and subscribe. So today I want to talk about the Fury versus Usyk fight, but also a little bit of basically conflict between the Talksport team and the Talksport boxing team, Gareth A Davis and Adam Catterall. So I'm going to play the clip and then I'm going to get back into it. So with no further ado.
We told you what's coming up on the show, but this big story this week, without any shadow of a doubt, is the news that it is signed. Yes, I know that you're sceptical because you've heard us say this on many occasions.
No, you're sceptical.
No, I'm not.
You've always been sceptical.
Not recently, I haven't. Not
Have
recently,
you,
I haven't.
No, you've been very sceptical about whether the Fury-Usyk fight would happen.
Rightfully so. But of the last 3 to 4 weeks, I'm on record saying that I think it will be the finisher to the Riyadh season.
I think it'll be before that. I think it'll be January. That's what I'm hearing.
Okay.
But I do think you've got to pull back a little bit and stop criticising Tyson Fury.
Why?
Because he's taking a warm-up fight against Francis Ngannou. It's a big
not
payday.
A fight. It's not a fight.
It is a fight.
It's not a fight.
I'm seeing it as a fight.
Okay.
You don't need to. But then I'm seeing Fury and Usyk coming after that. Anthony Joshua and Deontay Wilder's just collapsed completely.
Yeah.
And as I've said to you all along, you cannot make things happen. Things will happen in terms of timing, ego, and money. And that's how heavyweight boxing works.
That doesn't make it right, though.
It's not a question of whether it's right, it's just how it works. There's no right or wrong about it. It doesn't matter whether it's right or wrong. There's no right or wrong.
Let me put something towards you then, all right? Earlier this year, we had a fight between Gervonta Davis and Ryan Garcia. Did we or did we not?
It's not heavyweights.
I don't care.
No, but that's what I'm saying. It's not heavyweights. We have only had one undisputed heavyweight title fight in the last 25 years. And there's a reason for it. Promoters and broadcasters use the heavyweight belts to make money, and it's an inexact science, and it's, like you say, it feels like a lawless and even immoral science at times, but that's the way that heavyweight boxing's always been. It's so lawless that you cannot control it. And I think we need to rejoice right now.
I'm rejoicing. Listen, like you, what you've just said there is I agree with, because ego and greed have been satisfied. That's where we're at.
Well, it's not greed, it's just money.
Well,
It's
it
like,
is greed.
No,
because
it's not. I don't think it is greed.
Gareth, be honest, right?
I am being honest.
There's been plenty of opportunities over the last 5 years to make the undisputed fight.
How many years did we wait for Manny Pacquiao and Floyd Mayweather? 5. Why?
That's not heavyweights.
Timing,
that's
money,
that's
and
not
ego.
heavyweights.
But they were the two. But they were the heavyweights of the era. I would have said they were the heavyweight stars of the era.
Yeah, but they weren't. They're not heavyweights, are they?
No, they're not heavyweights.
You're talking about profile, but then 2 minutes ago when I was talking about Ryan Garcia and profile and Gervonta Davis.
But they're not big like Mayweather and Pacquiao were. They're not on the same level.
Ryan Garcia, from a social media point of view,
from a social media point of view,
out the
yes,
water.
but they're not crossover mainstream stars.
My point with that fight is this, right? And Carl Froch has said this on plenty of occasions. If a fighter wants to make a fight, they can make a fight.
I agree.
So therefore, over the last 5 years, we've had plenty of opportunity to make the undisputed fight, and ego, greed, and various other bits.
An
like
arbitration case got in the way. I agree.
Has got in the way of being able to manipulate and make this fight.
Yeah.
Now, from a fan's point of view, if you take a step back, like you say, you're on the inside, so you know a lot of things. But if you take a step back from a fan's point of view and you look at this, all you see is a heavyweight saying a lot of things, with them not becoming true. And that goes on and on and on. And it becomes the common denominator in a lot of these conversations. There has been plenty of opportunity for Tyson Fury to make an undisputed fight. The reason why that's not happened is because of what you're highlighting. Ego and greed. Now...
From Usyk as well.
I'm not denying that.
They're both of them. That's the thing. That's the key to it. It's all of them.
I'm not denying that.
And their ages.
Well, I thought you were going to say, and their agents. And
age,
people that are eating off their plates as well have also got
their
involved
ages, where they are at in their career. They're all cashing out.
Anyway.
It's that time.
The relationship that Frank Warren, George Warren, and the guys at Queensberry have managed to strike up with Saudi Arabia, they've managed to circumnavigate, as we highlighted on the show a couple of weeks ago. They're not now using an intermediary, they're going straight to the government, and therefore they've unlocked this big vat of money. As highlighted by yourself this week in a conversation that you had with Bob Arum. $100 million on the table for Tyson Fury for 2 fights. One of them is a walk in the park, one of them's a test. I still think he wins, but it's a proper test. And, like you said, the historical relevance of that fight is absolutely astronomical. for the sport, for all the fans, and who knows, this might be the kickstart of something incredibly special, a really special period.
It was always going to be.
I hope it was.
It was always going to be.
It wasn't. Without that money, it was never going to happen.
But that money was always going to be there. This has been in the works for several months, and rather like there were promises made by other sides in the Middle East that haven't come to fruition as well. From Skills Challenge haven't delivered for Anthony Joshua and Deontay Wilder. It's moved sideways, as Eddie Hearns revealed this week. Wilder and Joshua is dead in the water right now, and I feel for them, because that looked like an amazing fight. And I'm not sitting here defending the heavyweights who have waited for this fight, this undisputed fight. What I'm saying is, this is the way it's happened. They knew in April that there was going to be a lot more money available if they went to the Middle East to have it than having it at Wembley Stadium. Much as I'd love to have had it at Wembley Stadium on April the 29th, much as I'd love to have had, if you recall, we were very, very close to having two-fight deal with Anthony Joshua and Tyson Fury in 2020?
Before arbitration, you're talking now?
Yeah, before arbitration, or 2021. So that scuppered it. It would have happened.
Well, it was done.
It was a done deal. There's no question it was a done deal. But Wilder winning his case moved Fury to America. Fury was going to take that fight. There's no question he would have pulled out.
They were both taking the fight. It was done. It was done.
Yeah. So in some ways, I think my disappointment is that we haven't seen Fury and Joshua.
I don't think we will.
No, I don't think we will. I think we may see it down the line as a kind of final fight that both men have for the British public. And the great thing is about the Saudi Arabian time zone is it's prime time for us. Yeah. It's not a 4 a.m, 5 a.m. thing that we're used to doing the entire time. Anyway, I cut across you. I wanted to, because you've been very sceptical about it. We're both insiders in the sport. I do think that everyone's at the same game in that heavyweight division, because they're all big names. The top 4-5 are big names, and now Zhang is as well. Frankly, Zhili Zhang, after beating Joe Joyce last weekend, I think he's a name in that mix as well.
Head of Queensberry Promotions, Frank Warren, joined the Drive show a little earlier on this week following the announcement that the fight had been signed. He said that he's under no doubt that it's going to happen.
Nothing's going to get in the way of this. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. That's why the two guys are signed. They have tremendous belief in their respective talents. They both think they're the best, and we will find out. And as I say, the fight that everybody's been craving for, been driving me mad about for God knows how long, we've delivered it. Number one, number two. For me, Tyson's number one, Usyk's number two. 4 belts on the line, never happened before. This is history-making fight. This is the biggest heavyweight fight of this century.
He's not wrong. It is absolutely the biggest heavyweight fight of this century, because, as Gareth highlighted a moment or two ago, 24 years it has been since we've been able to crown a undisputed heavyweight champion.
It's the only undisputed heavyweight fight of this century, because it was in the last century.
Yeah, of course, 1999.
It's the only one. And but it is... Listen, the great thing about Tyson Fury and Oleksander Uysk is you've got a guy with an amazing story, an extraordinary comeback story in Tyson Fury, who no one knew he was going to dominate Vladimir Klitschko and outpoint him on that night in Dusseldorf in 2015, and then plunge into darkness and put on 10 stone and go and take drugs and alcohol and binge and lose all the titles and not have a rematch with Klitschko and go into the wilderness for 2 years, and then come back and lose 10 stone and have 2 facile warm-up fights, then go in on that night when we were at the Battle of Los Angeles in 2018, and his extraordinary story, and he's still undefeated. And he's been down, 5 times in his career. I think Cunningham put him down, the cruiserweight Steve Cunningham. Wilder's put him down 4 times, and he's still undefeated. In 2 reigns, having held all the belts in 2 reigns. Oleksander Uysk, emulating his great hero Evander Holyfield, winning the Olympic gold in London, emulating his hero Evander Holyfield, becoming undisputed cruiserweight champion and stepping up and in 5 fights, having proved that he's actually brilliant at heavyweight and holding 3 of the belts. And he's 1 fight away, 1 win away from emulating Holyfield and joining him in the pantheon of the great legends of heavyweight boxing. Ditto Fury, if he can beat, I don't know, does he just need to beat Usyk to cement the era as the number 1?
Really interesting question, because there'll be fans out there that do need to see the Anthony Joshua fight. For me, I don't need to see it. I think that this is the fight. This is it. The best against the best. I think the majority of people will conclude that this is number 1 against number 2. Of course, there's other fights out there that you don't want Tyson Fury to win and then clear off. You want him to stay around and have other fights. Of course you do. But this fight, for me, stylistically, when we're talking about technicians in a boxing ring, it's the best fight that you can possibly make in the heavyweight division.
It is. And I've got to say as well, well done, His Excellency Turki Al Sheikh, for getting it over the line and saying no. As Bob Arum said to me in the week, money seems to be no object to get this fight on. And it's their investment that's made it happen. Money's no object, he's saying. You know, there's huge figures bandied around, hundreds of millions of US dollars going into this fight, because they are serious about investing in the heavyweight division, because that's what they want to do. We've got 5 heavyweights.
So from the clip there, Gareth A Davis is just licking Tyson Fury's batty crease. So anyway, Adam Catterall's not having it, and I like Adam Catterall because he says it as he sees it. So he doesn't bum lick like Gareth A Davis does. So Gareth A Davis is pro Tyson Fury. Adam Catterall is, he's a greedy so-and-so. And it's true. You know, Gareth A Davis is sticking up for Tyson Fury and saying it's down to ego, down to timing, down to age, blah, blah, blah. You know, being empathetic, being nicey about it, because he needs to get interviews of Tyson Fury, and if he's not nice, you know, Bricktop won't give him no interviews, Bricktop won't give him any access, Fury won't give him any access. Whereas Adam Catterall, he probably is more, he's not in the ring and he doesn't go around and get interviews like that. He just sticks to the show, and then I think he does his show like ringside. So he's not really an interviewer like that, like Gareth A Davis is. So he doesn't really care. He just says what he says. Do you know what I mean? There was the time before when I did the other video where Bricktop was having a go at him, and he kind of took it, but he still stood his ground. So he's right over being skeptical over the fight because of the Tyson Fury shenanigans that have been going on for so long. But we have to give Tyson Fury his dues manipulative wise, because it seems if the fight is going on, and if it does take place, and it does take place for the money that it's going to be going for, he's managed to basically scupper Anthony Joshua and Deontay Wilder's fight and blow that out in the water. Also, get the fight with Usyk, make more money, and basically have it on his terms when he wants to fight after he's made more money with the Francis Ngannou fight. So he's just milked the cow to death. You know, the guy's got flipping, I don't know how many udders squeezing off the cow, because the amount of milk and money he's making, boy, it's not even a joke. So when you're saying greed, damn right, greed. That's why it's called Greedy Belly, flipping heck. The name what Usyk give him is apt, because he's managed to squeeze as much money out of heavyweight boxing, more than any probably heavyweight at this actual moment in time, in this time period. Because at one point it was Anthony Joshua who was the highest paid heavyweight, but it seems like maybe Fury now has surpassed him and managed to take Joshua's spot, because Joshua, even though he's marketable in the UK and marketable overseas with the fights that he's had, because he's lost his crown and lost them amount of fights, the 3 fights, and he lost to Usyk over the 2 fights, his actual buying power and actually commanding mega money has diminished, especially within the British public, because that British public fan base was a big staunch supporter and advocate of Joshua's. That's how he made a lot of his money. And even though he didn't do probably Wembley or other stadiums as big as that, he possibly could have. But what he's let happen with Eddie Hearn is he's let Eddie Hearn control his career in a certain aspect, because Eddie's been with him for so long, and I think he made a mistake signing with Eddie for so long, even though it was a lot of money. But he should have been a bit more flexible, like other heavyweights like Chisora and probably Dillian White, and probably had smaller contracts and smaller periods where he can basically negotiate with other people. Because in some aspects, that is actually better for your overall career, even if you still can command a lot of money. And maybe even working with Bricktop in certain aspects maybe would have got him certain other fights where he's clashed, because Eddie Hearn and Bricktop don't get on. So that's where that's led him to like losing out on bigger fights, because I honestly believe if he wasn't with Eddie Hearn and say he was with another promoter or he's free, he probably could have got the Fury fight more easily than he had obviously being with Hearn, because Bricktop hates Hearn. So I'm not saying that's just one of the reasons, but it might have been more easier to negotiate it. But anyway, what was going to say then? But anyway, the fact that Gareth A Davis is saying what he's saying, it's not surprising, because he's going to say that because he's said it from day one. So he's going to take Fury's side. And with Adam Catterall taking the stance he's got, that's not surprising as well, because it's right. You know, we want to see this fight. But later on in the interview, when Bricktop comes on and says his piece, and then I think they move on and start talking about basically the Saudis and how they're investing in the boxing. I think what's going to happen there in that aspect is like what's happening with the football. The Saudis are going to basically monopolise heavyweight boxing, and the biggest fights you're only going to be able to watch through the Saudis' investment, and with obviously, I won't just say skill challenge, but whoever else is like getting into that forefront of boxing promotions. That's where it's going to be the new place to go to have the biggest fights. So I don't know if they're going to make money out of this, but I think in the long-term scheme of things, when it comes to advertising the country and advertising and being an advocate for people to come there and spend money in the country and live there, that's going to be more enticing when there's events of this magnitude going on, because having the Ngannou fight and then having all them heavyweights on that bill, even though it's an exhibition, and obviously it's for the Riyadh season, and then obviously having the Fury versus Usyk fight, it's actually pretty mega. So it's going to be like a new capital of the world when it comes to entertainment and showbiz. So having the boxing there as well, that will cap it off, because everyone likes to go out on a night out, and boxing's kind of that kind of event where if you have something mega to go, anyone will go out if they can afford it, especially casuals and just normal Joe public. If they can afford to go, they'll go. So, and again, I think it's an event for the Saudis as well, because they probably can't, I don't know, go out to certain events because of the restrictions. I won't even say restrictions. I think it's down to the tradition and obviously the way of life and the law. But obviously by doing this with the boxing, it's making it a bit more relaxed and making it a bit more accessible for not just the actual inhabitants of the country, but also for people that are outside that may have a negative opinion of the country and of the practices and obviously of the religion and things like that. So it makes it more, how can I put it, it makes it more free and easy and more relaxed for people to maybe look at other aspects of the country and maybe not be so negative and not so pessimistic about what the media portrays of certain places. But anyway, I think personally maybe the money's a good thing, but it could also be a bad thing, because if they monopolise all the biggest fights, we're only going to get to see them if the Saudis put up the money. So what's going to end up happening is a lot of other fights may not actually happen because people are going to be waiting and manipulating things to actually maneuver them. So it can only head in one direction. So eventually we will probably get those fights, but then based off how people can make the machinery churn, that's only when they will take place. But anyway, what do you think about what Gareth A Davis has said? And do you agree with him? And do you think he is a bum licker? Because I do. I think he's a Tyson Fury toilet paper, to be honest. Anyway, Adam Catterall says what's right. But one thing I do actually disagree with Adam Catterall about is that he's just saying that Usyk and Fury is the fight that we want to see. No, the other fights we need to see as well. We need to see basically what I think Gareth A Davis was saying. We need to see Fury versus Usyk, then obviously Fury versus Joshua, then Wilder versus Joshua, then Wilder versus Usyk, you know, and then Zhilei Zhang as well within that mix. If he actually gets in line and can get a crack at whoever has the belt after this fight takes place. But I reckon there may be a rematch on this fight, so I reckon there'll be 2 Tyson Fury versus Usyk fights, and possibly maybe even 3 if somehow Fury wins one and or loses one and then has a rematch, and then the same with Usyk, wins one and whatever, and then they go back again. Because I think Fury will milk it for as much as he can, because you know he's greedy, so you know greedy belly's going to try and milk it. So anyway, maybe 3 fights there, and then possibly if they have the legs or they have the basically stamina left or they have the punch resistance left after that to actually go in with Joshua or Wilder, regardless of who's won and who's manoeuvred and who's in the position to have all the belts once the mandatories are out of the way, because it's going to be Hrgovic, then it's going to be Zhang. So I don't know how it's going to work if this fight is actually signed, because remember Hrgovic has said he's not stepping out of the way and he's not taking step aside money, but the Saudis might basically entice him, and that might be possible because they've got big pockets. So if they offer him 50 million or even maybe 18 to 20 million, he's not going to say no, is he? So that's a lot of money, and it'll probably be a career payday. I think even 10 million might be a career payday for Hrgovic. But anyway, what are your thoughts on this? Leave your comments in the comment section. Like, comment, and subscribe. And that is another one from Knockout Legends. Peace.